Good afternoon, everybody. And it is Monday. And we're going to call this Monday Motivation because we all need motivation, don't we? We all need that little spark in our belly that gets us up in the morning. But the good news is, if you're watching this show, you're already up. So you need to celebrate that, actually. We forget, waking up is a good thing. Even if you press that snooze, 9-minute snooze on the radio, you'll wake up again and again and again and again. Eventually, you'll get out of bed. But question for you is, if you press that snooze button, and by the way, I do that. Okay. How many times do you press it? Why do you press it so many times? What is it that you have to have a snooze button? Now, I've grown up with snooze buttons. And I'm sure you have as well, CK. I mean, when I was at university, I had a radio that had a snooze button, and it's always 9 minutes. Now, I've asked lots of people why it's 9 minutes. I've actually got no idea, and neither has anybody else. So, CK, first question for you this Monday afternoon. Why is it 9 minutes? Is it a technical issue? Why is it 9 minutes?
Well, Neville, first of all, I never understood why there is a snooze button in the first place. So, just like you, I always had a snooze button, but I think if you press snooze, and surprisingly, it's not always 9 minutes. It can be configured. You can snooze it for 1 minute, you can snooze it for 5 minutes. At least in the watches that I've seen, 5 minutes was the default setting, but you can set whichever time snooze button that you want to set up, and then after that it becomes default. So I have no answer to your question, Neville, but definitely there's a snooze button. I don't see any value in that.
Well, the thing is, part of today, and where we're going to kick off here, is other people are controlling your life. That snooze button is being controlled. As you mentioned, that wonderful word that we all have that's called default. What's the default? What's your default? Well, on a snooze, I mean, I haven't heard of 1 minute and 5 minute. The default for me has always been 9 minutes. And my radio is so old that, frankly, I'm not even too sure I can change it from anything but 9 minutes. But that's the default. Someone else is controlling your life. You're being manipulated by another being who's programmed a machine, and you literally have fallen into the trap. There is a phrase, and I'm sure you've heard this: you snooze, you lose. People come up with these wonderful phrases that, surprisingly enough, rhyme. You snooze, you lose, because it's nice and easy to say. And it is. If you're not awake, you will lose. Someone else will get there first. So, I mean, around about this time of the year, there's all these announcements of bands going on tour. And all of my kids are mad about certain bands. And one of them just doesn't care what band's on tour. They always go and see it because they want to have that experience. So I will regularly get a WhatsApp message to say, Dad, can you make sure you're on this link at 9 o'clock and just get me 4 tickets? Now, these tickets are like £400 or £500, which is not an insignificant, like $600, not an insignificant amount of money. But they work on the basis, you snooze, you lose. The early bird catches the worm. These phrases that we hear about and actually talk about, and you'll see lots of gurus say, here's an early bird price. In other words, if you get in now, it's cheaper. And what you immediately think is, oh, there's a lot of benefit getting in cheaper. But again, they're just manipulating you. It's got to be your choice. So the issue today is, if you snooze, you lose. Think of that phrase, because if you are snoozing, you are already losing, because you're being manipulated by somebody else. That default button on your radio or alarm clock has said you've got another 9 minutes. Why 9 minutes? Why have you chosen to conform to someone else's rules? And by the way, these aren't rules that are going to do anybody any good. There's no scientific reason why an alarm going off and a snooze is going to do you any benefit. As you said, CK, if the alarm goes off, I get up. And these days, if the alarm goes up, I do get up. It tends to be on a weekend where I think, oh, no, I'll have another 9 minutes. And I'm mentally thinking that, oh, I've got another 9 minutes here. And my wife is worse, frankly, because she will snooze and snooze and snooze. She'll hit that snooze button until you can't hit the snooze button anymore. She runs out of snoozes. Right? And it's up to me then to take her a cup of coffee and say, wakey, wakey. And it's amazing how her nose can wake up to a smelling cup of coffee. What really wakes you up, CK?
Well, Neville, I just want to say that I have missed flight with the snooze button. So I'm better off without the snooze button because I know my mental clock is going to work and I know exactly when to get up, when to dress up, and when to rush for the, towards the airport. So there was a time when I have actually twice in my life, I missed my flight because of the snooze button. And after that, I made my mantra not to have any snooze. If there is a ring, if there's an alarm. In fact, nowadays, I don't even set up an alarm. I just, my alarm is somewhere here. I just tweak it and I'll get up before say for example, 5 o'clock, I will get up before 5 o'clock. But I think you made a very good point. The smell of coffee makes you awake, actually. It tells the brain that you should be awake now. And I think that is very, very important. The smell of coffee is something which is, I don't know how it is working on our brain, but it does. It definitely does work. Even if you're feeling sleepy and if you are offered a cup of coffee, you will immediately wake up. All your senses come alive. This is what I feel, Neville.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, CK. And it's an individual preference. I can smell a good cup of coffee from 100 yards. Why? Because I like coffee, espresso in particular. So I don't like any additives. Sugar every now and again if I know the coffee's a little bitter, but no milk, thank you very much. Just give me a double espresso and a little biscotti on the side. And by the way, that's if anyone meets me and you want to, buy me a coffee in a coffee shop, just put a double espresso in front of me and I'll be your friend for life. There you go. That's how easy I am. But no, you're right. It's our senses that pick it up. And the point about senses is that senses are on automatic pilot as well. It's your default arena. So even if there are lots of smells going on, and coffee is that smell of the morning smell that you have, you will be like a magnet going towards it. That magnet is drawing you in. And the closer you get, it's almost like an electromagnet. The power's turned up. And all of a sudden, all of your senses take over. And that's what we want you to do every morning. We don't want to be a snooze you lose type of individual. We want you to be an early bird. So when you wake up, feel alive, because it's the greatest way to start your day. And why is that? Because the rest of the day, you will be influenced by lots of other people. You can't avoid it, really. Even if you're a freelancer or you're a remote employee or an entrepreneur, you cannot avoid working with people during the day. And one thing about working with people, and I know CK will agree with me on this one, is that they've always got problems that they want to give you. A big nod of the head and a smile. Now, we're all in the business of solving other people's problems. I mean, it's very rare that you're running a business where there isn't a problem that you're solving, or you're not supplying something that's giving someone else value. Now, that value could be a problem, it could be a material thing like a a Mont Blanc pen, for instance, you're giving value, but you're also solving their problem, because what's their problem? They want a Mont Blanc pen. That's a problem. That's what you've got to solve. So all day long, you will be solving someone else's problem. And to be absolutely frank with you, that's pretty tiring. I mean, I enjoy it. I mean, I love it. But at the end of the day, I am mentally exhausted. And sometimes I'm physically knackered because it's been hard work. Now, that doesn't mean to say that I'm drained of energy completely and I feel as though, I've not achieved something. No, I've achieved an awful lot. And that's what we want you to be. We want you to be successful. And the way you start that is starting the day on a very positive note. And what goes on after that, it's entirely up to you. You can keep that positive note moving all the way through the day. And I can see CK's nodding again because he knows how that feels. Not how it feels to me, but how it feels to him. So you should know how that feels too. But here's the question. Do you ever celebrate it? Do you actually think that cup of coffee in the morning, or a cup of tea, or as I follow it up with a glass of water with lime in, is a reward? It's your reward. It's you rewarding yourself with a little thank you. And all too often, we don't say thank you to ourselves. How often, CK, do you actually say thank you to yourself? Physically, mentally, actively say thank you to yourself?
Hardly, I would say never. I don't remember saying thank you to myself. But I think I remember one thing, that if you have a sunrise and a good cup of espresso, that is something which is outstanding feeling. I really adore this feeling. But I never said thank you even for that.
The thing is, we don't, and yet we say thank you to everybody else. Thank you for your feedback. Oh, thank you for making me a cup of coffee. Oh, thank you for lunch. Oh, thanks for taking the call. We say thank you. Good people say thank you all the time. Not in a soft sort of superficial way. They actually are meaning it from the heart. And that's important. But you are a really important person in this conversation. And you need to say thank you to yourself. And your example, CK, absolutely brilliant. Because you may not be saying thank you. And this is it. You don't have to say thank you, but you feel thank you. That sunrise, I can imagine it now. Sitting on the balcony on a terrace with a beautiful double espresso and the sunrise just coming up above the horizon. That's about 6 o'clock in the morning. Well, in the UK now, it's about 6:30 in the morning. And you can see it. And I sit down just like you, and every morning I will see that sunrise come up. And it will give me an inner glow. And that's a thank you. And we need to know what those triggers are. Because every now and again during the day, you need to go to a happy place because everyone's dragging you down. And if you go to that happy place, so I go, like you, CK, that sunrise is a really happy place for me. I don't even need to know where I am to find the sun, because all I need to do is imagine it and that sun comes up. And anyone listening to this, you can do that. You can think of a great happy place that you've been, and you can go back there as many times as you like. And the nice thing is, what we're being told by the likes of Facebook, which is now called Metaverse, that's exactly where they want us to go. Now, they're a little bit late to the game, actually, because human beings have been able to go into the metaverse by sometimes not even closing your eyes, but close your eyes and think of the most fantastic holiday or discussion or meeting you ever had. And you can visualize everybody in the room, who you're with, what time of day it was, where the sun was, what you were drinking, what you were eating, what you were about to do. You can actually imagine exactly where you were. And the nice thing about a memory is, in some respects, it's not real, but it is real, because you can actually change what you saw. So all the bad stuff, it will fade out, just like they do in metaverse land, augmented arena, where the gamers go when they play games online. They're in the game. Well, this is your game. This is your metaverse. This is your imagination. And the issue here is, it was your reality. You didn't have to dream about it. And you can go there anytime you like. And I can see CK smiling away here. And now I'm going to ask him, where was he going during that discussion? Where was his beautiful place? It probably wasn't one place. It may have been several. So, CK, where were you going when I was saying that? Where's your happy place or places?
Well, Neville, it's very funny when I say that, but nevertheless, hear me out. You mentioned metaverse. The Americans had it only a few months before. They started that like last month, and they renamed it, new branding, metaverse, etc., etc. But the Indians are in metaverse for last 10,000 years. We had,
I knew you were going to say that.
we had the technology of traveling by thoughts. There were spaceships available in the ancient Indian text or mythology, whatever you want to call it, where people can travel by thought, by power of thought. So to answer your question, where is my happy place? I think my happy place is in my office. I do always metaverse and reach down in my office and what's going on my screen, and that is my happy place.
See, that's a brilliant answer, because you can physically go to that as often as you like, because it's your office. And you invite us into that office, which gives you more memories. So even though ours is an interactive video situation here, because I can't pinch him, anybody. I'm not actually physically in his office, I'm 6,500 miles away. So, but from the beauty of this thought machine that we might call a PC or a telephone, because that's another thought machine, but it's not what's on the screen, it's who's saying it. There's your thought machine. So we can be very grateful to the people that have allowed this type of technology to help our thoughts translate from one place to another. Because I know you and I would find it quite difficult that if we weren't on this screen, I would send you a thought mentally and it might get there. But the likelihood is it wouldn't. But you're absolutely right, CK. We've got all this capability. Our imagination is thousands of years old. And metaverse, I laugh when I heard metaverse, that Facebook were changing their commercial name. I did laugh, because I thought, well, they're about 8 years too late, because the gamers have been around for years. And who's this going to benefit? Do I really want to sit next to you with your avatar and my avatar and almost shaking hands, but not shaking hands, because I can't feel you unless someone's going to come up with this sensory, mouse like we've got in gaming, where I fire a bullet and all of a sudden I get recoil, who knows what's going to happen there. But do I really want that situation to happen? No, I'd much rather have what we've got here, where you can see my expressions and I can see yours. There's no third-party shielding going on. And as we both know, in the world of grooming, which is not exactly the greatest place to talk about here, but where you think you're talking to, you know, a 21-year-old, you know, fit person, and you find out they're a 65-year-old groomer. And that's not a great place to be. And I'm afraid that's what might happen in this default type world. Again, we're going to go back to this. This is someone else's world that they're creating for you. Well, what about creating your world for you? So it's been a fascinating discussion as we kick off this Monday motivation. But the first thing is snooze, you lose. Don't snooze, you know. Keep awake. When you're awake, keep awake. Get your senses going. That cup of coffee that CK and I can smell, we can taste it before we've even put the coffee up to our lips. We can actually see it and feel it going down our throat. I mean, I need a coffee now because I've been talking about a nice cup of coffee. And the thing about this is my memory is kicking in. My imagination is kicking in, and yet I can have a lucid conversation on something else. And that's where we say, you know, they say that men can't multitask. Well, that's a load of rubbish. Because I literally am salivating over I need another cup of coffee. It's amazing, really. And you can do that. You can do that with whatever you really like doing. So today, 2 things. You snooze, you lose, and use your imagination. Use it as often as you like, because that's your choice. It's not a default. No one else is controlling you. It's your imagination. You can take it wherever you like. CK, as ever, it's been fascinating getting your insight into what I'm saying. Any remarks you've got on those 2 issues? Because again, we don't want to overload people in their thinking, because they just need to think about 1 or 2 things, and then they'll probably go and do it.
Well, Neville, way back in 1984, when I was just a kid, I saw Sir Sean Connery playing for the world domination. They were playing a game, and they used to shoot using lasers. And you know, if they lose a country, there'll be a shock. And the bigger the country, the bigger the shock. That is what I want to say for today.
You're absolutely right, CK. And we had imagination then. And I can remember it now. So as soon as you said James Bond and, you know, world domination, I knew exactly what you had. I can see the movie in the back of my mind being replayed in front of me. And I'm adjusting the controllers over here, and it goes, Russia, $40 billion. And, you know, and can't make the noises very good. But yeah, it was brilliant. And as you say, 1984, it wasn't even this century. It was last century. You know, so for all you youngsters watching out there, yes, we're both old, but we've been around a bit, and we can actually see how things unfold. But again, the main thing is CK's imagination was triggered by a memory, and that's what you can do. So again, the message today is: you snooze, you lose. Just think about that. So be awake, be aware. And let your imagination have fun with you when you need it. So you can trigger your imagination anytime you like. Having a bad day? Close your eyes, have a cup of tea, coffee, glass of water, whatever it is, and just imagine a happy place.
Take the pen at a happy place or a happy thought. His mother.
Thank you so much, Neville, for giving us such a motivational talk today on a Monday morning. I think it is going to make us awake, make us get things going for the rest of the week. We will catch up next Monday for the next motivational talk. Until then, I'd like to say goodbye for today.
Goodbye, everybody. Enjoy your day. Remember, imagination's everything.